Welcome to this men's haircut tutorial where I'll be talking you through my step-by-step process and simplifying some problems along the way, such as hair that grows to a point at the back, the classic cowlick or double crown on the top of the head, and I'll take the mystery out of the cowlick at the front. But let's start at the back where that point was. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this point by creating a square line with my lever closed in the 0mm position. Now this is what we actually call a Nape Whorl. Nape Whorl. That's the official name where the hair can grow up and down towards a point. So if we make that point square, we just get rid of it. But square is going to look terrible unless we do something with it. So once I've created my square line, I now need to taper it and soften it. So I'll clean the whole area up there with the little trimmer before moving on. And this is as short as I can go with a blade. I'll now move the lever on my big clipper to the open position. That makes a length of 1.5mm. So 1.5mm, and I'm going to budge my line up, shift it up by about 1/2 inch. And you can see that there is a little bit of a line forming between the 0 and the open position. But if I get my client to lift his head up, you can see that there's a little dip here in my line. Don't worry about it. Let's come back to that later. I'm going to move the lever somewhere in the middle. It's probably about 1mm and not go quite as high as I just did. This is just to kind of join the 0 and the fully open position together. Look at that little dark spot. It's still there. Don't worry about it. We'll come to that. I'm going to put on my number 1 attachment comb, which is 3mm, and just attack that line. So when the clipper reaches the line, I just flick the clipper out slightly. And I've still got that little dark patch there. It's lingering, but it's going to disappear. I'm sure of it. Let's just have faith. Now look, I've got the corner of the clipper here lifting off because I don't want to use the whole blade. I only want to use a little bit of it. I'm either using the corner of the blade or the middle of the blade because the blade's long and flat and the head curves. So just use a part of the blade. If you cut with it flat all the time, you might cut some hair that you don't want to cut. So I'll clean up, and this is a small attachment comb, just 1.5mm. Let's just go not quite as high as we did with the one. This is just a little bit of refinement here to join up all our numbers. So there's a lot of stepping back and stepping forwards. Now we can step forward. This is bigger, 4.5mm, this attachment comb. So I'll go a little bit higher. Now, one of the interesting things with this haircut is that I'm not clippering all of it. Wait until you see, this is very unusual, but it works really well. The reason being is because I want to respect that double crown, the cowlick on the top of the head, so I need to build into some longer hair higher up. Okay, again, that little step back just to join in the two areas. I've just gone back to my 3mm to try and take out what I think is a little dark line there. Okay, so now the number 2 attachment comb, which is 6mm, and you can see here, this is as high as I'm going to go. This line here, this is the occipital bone. I don't want to go any higher than that. I'm kind of flicking the clipper out when I get there. That's quite important to do. And then on the sides, I'm not using the clipper at all. I'm just going to use trimmer over comb. So I'm going to blend in the head hair into the facial hair and neaten up around the ears. Now, my reasoning for this as well is that this haircut is growing back from a fade, but I want to build up more hair towards the top and have some support for longer hair higher up. Remember, you don't always have to cut every hair on the head. It's what you leave behind. Now, have you ever tried this? Have you ever tried just tapering the back and tidying the edges? Because that works. You know, that'll get you maybe 2 or 3 haircuts down the line before you actually need to cut the whole thing again. You don't always have to cut everything. This line here, be careful not to go inside the hairline. I say it all the time in my videos. It looks really neat if you can just get it bang on where the hair grows. So distinguish between neck hair and head hair. That's quite important. So I'll go over to the other side and just do the same. I'm going to repeat the process, and then we need to move over onto the top and tackle this double crown. This is the thing. So I'm going to wet it down and try and comb all the hair in the direction that it wants to go, the direction that it naturally flows. Now look at that. This hair is going in many directions here. Spend some time combing it and getting it all in the right direction. Now look at this. This is the line that I can find. This is natural. It's a natural part in there, and the hair is drifting in that direction. So I think the best thing to do is to scissor cut sections in that direction. Let's respect the way that the hair wants to flow. So using the hook of the comb and following with my fingers, I'm going to pin down a section and pick it up. Now I need to leave enough length so that it doesn't spring up. I'm estimating that that's enough. When I let go of it, it fell down, it collapsed, it didn't stand on end, so that's fine. So if I step forward, each section I take will be the same length as the last one. I can see the short hair from my previous section in each new section that I take. So these are quite broad sections. This is me basically establishing that length on the crown. So now we need to create a shape that graduates longer from where our taper was. I'm going to start at the top and work my way down, so it needs to be longer at the top. Okay, so keep it very long there and just take more off as you get closer down to where the taper was, where that number 2 was on the occipital bone. The technique here is to slide the scissor in, pick the hair up, and then trim across the comb. This is scissor over comb. The trick to this is in holding the comb. You just hold the comb in the fingers and flip it over. Now, although this is slightly blurry, you're going to see here that I've got the optimum length because there's a little bit of hair that's just wanting to stand up. It's wet. Can you see it there? It's a little bit springy, and I haven't really taken anything off of that. So I need to make sure that I keep that and I don't go any shorter, because when that's dry, it's just going to stand on end. I'll explain this technique further, by the way, later in this video, because I'm going to cut what's called the block on the sides. It's pretty much the same as what we're doing here. A block graduation. A graduation is just getting longer towards the top. A taper, of course, is getting shorter towards the bottom. So it's sitting okay at the crown right now. Let's work our way towards the front. So we'll take a bunch of sections starting at that crown area, and I'm not going to take very much off from this area because remember, I've already cut it. I'm just going to make sure that it is even and there's no long hair at all just to come off a little bit. So each section, as I work forward, take a little bit off. And now that I'm getting out of that crown area, I can afford to take a little bit more off as I work my way forwards. So you see, as I get towards the top of the head, I start taking it shorter. That's okay, I can take that risk now. It's safer because I'm away from the springy hair from the middle of the crown. That said, as I work towards the front, I'm going to take less off. Okay, I want it to be longer at the front because we have the other problem at the front, which is the cowlick. Now, the cowlick is incredibly easy to deal with at the front. All we need to do is leave enough length as I get closer towards the front. Respect it. Remember that it can spring all over the place. There's my guideline. It can spring all over the place if I cut it too short. So we need the weight. It needs to be long enough to hold itself down. On men's hair, I think if the hair is sitting on the eyebrow, then that is a neat and tidy length for the hair to sit at. It's quite commercial, and it would be pretty acceptable in most jobs to have your hair cut to that length. It looks smart and it works. So a little bit more water as I work my way towards the front. I always like to scissor cut on wet hair. I just have more control with wet hair. These scissors I'm using, by the way, they are a 6-inch Japanese vanadium steel. They are my own scissors. It's my own brand of scissor, the Home brand, and you can find a link for them in the description of this video down below if you're in the market for scissors. If we step to the side of the middle now, we can start taking sections, and I'm going to look for a short point from the middle. See where these dots are? So when I pick up my sections, there should be some short hair at my inside knuckle where I will find short hair. Now, people will always say, I hear this all the time in barbering, only cut to the second knuckle. Well, I don't care. I cut further than the second knuckle. I like to break the rules. You can break the rules if you feel happy doing that. The reason that some barbers tell you not to cut past the second knuckle is that you can't get tension, like good strong tension. Personally, I can. I feel like I've got good tension on the hair, so I often cut beyond the first knuckle. Same again on the other side. We'll just cut to that dot in the middle. That'll be the guideline for the length to cut to. I'll be careful on the crown. This hair's going forward, so it's okay. I think it's a bit flatter there, the way that it lays. And I'm just going to follow my hair. And I'll just follow my guide all the way forward. Now, what's the importance of Japanese steel on scissors, this type of steel? This type of steel gives you a convex edge, which is sharper than the traditional bevel edge scissor, the German type scissor. So I prefer to cut with convex edge. It's what I want to cut with, so if you're looking for a good quality scissor, the link is down below. Let's visualize this block again now. So it gets longer higher up, okay? So short into long. But I like to start at the top and work my way down, so my sections are long first, and they get shorter as I work my way down. This is a bit of refinement for you. This is the blending in from the sides into the top, scissor over comb. Sometimes I pick up these sections under tension with my fingers, but I really prefer to pick them up scissor over comb. And I'll tell you why. It's more natural. The hair is laying as it wants to. So I like cutting the graduation that way. But if you don't feel confident, if you're a bit shaky picking up sections like this, just use your fingers. It's okay. You can do that. It is worth practicing though. And speaking of practicing, let me know in the comments down below where you're up to in your barber career. How far have you taken your career so far? Are you still learning? Are you in barber school, in college? Are you in a shop? Here's a good angle at the side here. You can see how high I'm lifting my sections. I'm lifting them straight out from the side of the head. Angles are quite key when you're cutting hair. This isn't an angles lesson, so if all you want to do is cut hair like this, just follow what I'm doing. Now at the front, remember, we had that cow's lick there, and I respected it. I kept the length, and now all I need to do is just pull the hair down to the eyebrow and trim across. I definitely don't want to pull that down on my fingers, because if I do, it'll be too tight. I'll cut it, and then it's going to spring up higher than I was expecting. But my comb is straight, so if I put that on the comb, relaxed, and then just trim across the comb, then I know that the hair in a relaxed state will reach down as far as the comb. And this is right on the eyebrow. Here's a totally unnecessary comb flip. Now, once this is dry, it might sit up slightly higher. So right on the eyebrow is totally fine, and it may spring up by about 1 millimeter or 2 once it's dry, maybe slightly more, but I don't think so. I think I've got the right length here. Just chip. So I'm going to throw in a little bit of hair bond texturizer. I quite like this. It's like a salt spray basically, and you can get lots of salt sprays online. If I've got a link for this, I'll leave it below. And then dry it all off roughly. I'm just going to dry it to about 80% with this stuff so it doesn't go frizzy, and then give it a ruffle. Here's my end result. Now remember, I didn't cut the whole head of hair, but it works. We build from nothing into something. It's tapered into a graduation, into the long hair on the crown. We had the cutting direction that we followed. My client seems happy. I'm explaining to him. As I explain the taper to him, I realise I can make it a little bit cleaner, so just get the foil shaver out and take it right down. Why not add a finishing touch? If you can add it, if there's anything you can think that you can add to your haircut, just do it. I hope you've enjoyed this haircut. I'll see you in my next video.